10,000 warriors at Mount Tabor, and I will call out the general, the Canaanite general under King Jabin, and his name is Sisera, commander of the army, along with the chariots and warriors, to the Kishon River, and there I'll give you victory over him. So that was the message of God to Deborah. Deborah communicates it to Barak. And what does Barak say? Barak told her, I will go, but only if you go with me. Now here's a very unusual thing. A woman going to battle? But that's exactly what happened. This woman is evidently a courageous woman. None of the men were men enough, evidently, to stand up for what they believed and to follow the Lord and do the right thing. So God called a woman. And the woman called a man, a general, General Barak, to go into battle. 10,000 Israelites versus the Canaanite army that had 900 chariots. Now it says that this all happened in the valley right down from Mount Tabor. And Mount Tabor is the traditional site for the translation, the translation of Jesus Christ when he was transfigured. Not translation, but transfigured. He was transfigured on top of Mount Tabor. But here, this battle is going to take place in the valley. Now, on the map, you can see where Jesus was born, just a little to the right of the Kishon River, which is where the balloon is on the map. And this battle is going to take place in the valley. And you can see the Kishon River today is not very big. And the scholars believe that this was very much the way it was thousands of years ago. It's nothing but a kind of a big creek that goes through the valley. But when the Kishon River overflows, it gets to be almost a flood. And what happened in this battle is that the Israelites went into battle, and the Canaanite army had 900 of these iron-wheeled, spiked-wheeled chariots. And the Lord sent a thunderstorm. We can read all about this in Judges chapter 5. The Lord sent a thunderstorm, and the Kishon River overflowed its banks. And there was so much water that the chariots got stuck in the mud. And instead of being an asset, the chariots become a liability. And the Israelites kill every single Canaanite. Every one of them died on the battlefield, except for one. And that one guy escaped. And his name was the general Sisera. He escaped, and he ran away to an area of the that was close by where he thought he would be safe. So what Deborah said when General Barak said, I'll only go if you go, she said, I will surely go with you. Nevertheless, the honor shall not be yours on the journey that you are about to take, for the Lord will sell Sisera into the hands of a woman. So, right away, here is General Barak, and he says, I'll go, but only if you go with me. And she says, I'll go with you, but I want you to know that you won't get the credit. A woman will get the credit. And that's exactly what happened. Sisera flees to Yael's tent. pronounced Yahael, actually, in Hebrew. And Yahael was a Gentile. And Yahael was also a Kenite. And I love this story because it reminds me, a few churches back, I was preaching the gospel in a church that, well, they pretty much liked to think that they could be perfect. And they couldn't just, follow God's will and occasionally make a mistake. They said you could actually be like Christ. You could reach a point of perfection. And I said, no, I think only Christ was perfect. And we can do our best. And with God's help, we can follow the Lord. But we are weak vessels. And we cannot duplicate the life of Christ. We can imitate it, but we cannot duplicate it. Well, those people in that church, they didn't like to hear that. They thought they could be perfect. Isn't it strange how those who think they could be perfect never are? Well, here is a group of people who thought they could be perfect, and I was preaching the gospel, and there were a group of people in the church who agreed with me, and so they called them Kenites, just like we have here in the text today. And I always got such a kick out of that these folks that believe the gospel were called Kenites. Well, that's not true in this case because I wasn't even born yet, but we go back in time, and here are the Kenites. Now, the Kenites are Gentiles, but they're somewhat favorable feeling toward the Jewish people. Why? Because Moses actually married a Kenite. One of Moses' wives was a Kenite. And so there was some camaraderie there. Here we have these Kenites living close by, and Sisera thought he could go there and get help, but he went there and he actually died. Well, that's pretty much the story, except for the fact that when he went to the land of the Kenites, Yahael was wanting to be hospitable, and Sisera comes to the tent and says, "Will you take care of me?" And he asks for water. She actually gives him milk, or perhaps it was yogurt. Depends on the translation. It could be either way. But he's exhausted from running from the battle all day. And so he's falling asleep. Now, in the Palestine area, it was the women's work to always put up the tents. And so Yahael was used to doing tent stuff. She was used to putting up the tents as they moved from place to place. So she takes out a spike, a long spike, and here's a picture of it. And with a hammer, she nails him right through the temples, and he dies. So that's pretty much how the story ends, except that Israel is now delivered. So in this story, who is Christ? What do you think? Please use your clickers and tell us, who do you think Christ is in this story? Was Christ Deborah? Was Christ the Canaanite king Jabin? Was Christ the general, the Canaanite general, Sisera? Or was Christ Yahael? Or was Christ Barak?